Are you all ready to start? Everybody back? Hello, are you guys all ready to start? I'll take that as a resounding yes. Good afternoon again. So I understand the internet got fixed and you actually got to do the hands-on for NSLDS, is that right? Yay! And since we get to stay in this room, and since we get to start early, we'll be here if we want to do like a hands-on practice for COD after this session, as long as I don't talk too long. So if I start talking too long, you guys just go like that, okay? Won't hurt my feelings, really won't. Just keep going, Barb, keep going. We know this stuff. Okay. I am Barb Davis. I think you were all here this morning. My colleague, who I have the privilege of being married to, Wood Mason back there. How many grandkids do we have? 11? 10? Oh, you know what? I had 3 kids and people kept asking me how many kids I had, and every time somebody would ask me how many kids I had, it seemed like I had another. And so it's like, done. 4 kids, done. 11 grandkids? 11. He forgot the 4-month-old. Not nice. All right, and they're all over the place, but that's what we like to do, and we like to ride Wood's motorcycle, and we like to ride in our Mustang with the top down. I like that better than the motorcycle, and go hiking. So there you have it, and we've both been doing financial aid for too long. Okay, so let's talk about reconciliation. We're going to talk about the basics, then we're going to talk about the difference between internal and external reconciliation, and oh, I forgot, I like to make my presentations a conversation. Ask questions while I'm talking. Raise your hand, say stop, I don't understand what you're talking about. There are some of you that are new, and I can tend to use acronyms, so just raise your hand, stop. You don't have to go to a microphone. I'll repeat your question as long as you yell loud enough for me to hear you. Okay? Conversation. Internal versus external reconciliation. We're also going to talk about tools available for you for reconciliation, and then we'll recap with closeout. So let's start with the basics. What does it mean to reconcile? Reconciliation, defined technically, is the process by which Title IV grants, and for you guys that means, Title IV aid, for you guys that means loans, which are recorded on the departments at the Department of Education systems, are reviewed and compared with your internal records, and discrepancies are identified and resolved, and reasons for remaining cash balances are identified. This is ongoing reconciliation, okay? Notice that there can be cash balances, right? In a monthly reconciliation, it's just like your bank account. Now, okay, so I haven't lived in a foreign country, but I'm assuming, hopefully it's right, that you get a bank statement with your bank account and it's a snapshot in time, and you may have, spent money or gotten money in, and so it might not match your bank account exactly. Well, that's when you do monthly reconciliation to your SAS, which I don't think most of you use. But it's a snapshot in time, and you may have had disbursements or cash back and forth. You just need to identify that. Monthly reconciliation is knowing where the money is. And if you can't figure out where the money is, that's when you resolve the discrepancies. It's closeout at the end of the processing year where you must be at a zero balance. And we'll talk more about that, okay? So the practical application of reconciliation is making sure that the financial aid office records and your business, bursar, comptroller, the money person at your campus, that your records match. That's one. Number 2, ensuring that the department's systems reflect what's on your campus. I want to say that again. Making sure that the department's systems reflect what actually happened on your campus. You're not making your records match the department. You're making sure that we match what you did. Make sense? People are always telling me, I have to reconcile to what's in COD. No, you don't. You have to make COD match what happened on your campus. Okay? And third, making sure that your drawdowns match your disbursements. Okay, 3 parts of reconciliation right there. It's required for the direct loan program. You are required by regulation to reconcile monthly and to prove that you have reconciled. So when your auditors come, they likely will ask to see proof of your monthly reconciliation efforts. So when I worked at a school, I just used to document it, put it in a paper folder. So when my auditor came in, I could say, yep, here's for the whole month of 2000, well, I guess it would have been like 1998, whatever. Anyway, a long time ago in a land far away. Document, okay? Got to prove that you did it. Regular reconciliation also helps make sure that you are maintaining regulatory requirements. It proves that you're administratively capable. And some great resources are in Volume 4 of the handbook, specifically chapters 4 and 6. There used to be a blue book for the business office, and that was replaced, and we only have the handbook now. Volume 4 is what you want to be looking at. Okay, so keeping on with the basics here, disbursement definition. You make a disbursement of Title IV program funds the date on which the institution credits a student's account or gives the student money. How many of you give the student money and say, okay, now you need to pay me what you owe me? I didn't think so. Most people don't do that. You're going to credit their account, right? And then if there's money left over, it's the student's money, you're going to give it to them, right? When you credit the student's account, that date and that amount, whether you're using institutional funds or Department of Education funds, that's a disbursement. If you're using your own money, it's a disbursement. If you're using the department's money, it's a disbursement. Using your own money to reimburse yourself with department money, the date and the amount, that is the official disbursement, okay? Other regulatory requirements, you make sure that you are reporting disbursements or disbursement adjustments to the COD system within 15 days of when it occurred. And that is in the Federal Register. It's published annually. It was published this year in June. So you want to make sure that you're telling COD about any disbursements or disbursement adjustments within 15 days of when you know they occurred. Okay, that's a regulatory requirement. So you have to reconcile and prove that you reconciled every 30 days, but you have to report disbursements and disbursement adjustments within every 15 days, which means you can't just wait till the end of the month to figure out what's going on. You need to have regular communication with your business office, your registrar's office, whatever you call, who keeps track of where students are on your campus. Situations that are unique to foreign schools, which you all know, and so if there's any besides these that I don't cover, you guys can tell me. You have to have a new master promissory note for your students every single year. MPNs are school and award year specific. Okay, so if you get an MPN that the student did that for the 17-18 award year, you can't use it for 16-17 or 18-19 funds. All foreign schools are records first. Even if you're not on HCM1, you still must submit disbursements, have them accepted in COD before funds are available for you in G5 to draw. Yes, ma'am. MPNs, you have to have one every single year.
Not necessarily year specific. You can do an MPN last year until you this year.
Would? Every academic year, I'm sorry. Right, so every academic year you have to have a new MPN. Right.
It's not year specific, it's not like 17 or 18.
Correct. Thank you for making that point. So if you did not hear what she said, she was correcting a misstatement that I had where I said that MPNs are year specific. They're academic year specific, but they're not award year specific. Okay. The other thing that's unique to you all, which you all know, is you only do loans. You don't do any campus-based aid. You don't do any grants. And then the other thing that is a tightrope, I think, is making sure that your exchange rates, you've got to convert into whatever your currency is from US dollars. You're going to draw in US dollars and then convert and post with whatever your currency is. And if you have to return funds, you're going to figure out what you need to return in US dollars and convert it to whatever your currency is and send it back, because the student is responsible for paying back US dollars, not whatever your currency is. So that's tricky. You're going to get funds from G5, and you're going to return funds from G5. And this is the department system for Title IV aid. An individual user has to register for G5. It's not like our other systems, which you've had the pleasure of trying to hook up with over the last month. An individual user signs up here. You don't have a primary destination point administrator that signs up a bunch of users. Each person has to sign up on their own. The financial aid office doesn't usually use G5, but you can sign up and get read-only access so that you can look in there and see when your business office has drawn funds or returned funds. You can get read-only access. I highly recommend that you do. You shouldn't be drawing funds, but in the financial aid office, you can get read-only access. You also must set up a bank account where we can deposit funds, and you need to identify a bank account for refunds, where funds can be pulled from if you don't send via wire transfer, which I think a lot of you do. Regulations specific to maintaining and accounting funds, 34 CFR 668163. Okay, G5 award numbers. These are award year program specific. So for the 16-17 year for direct loans, you'll see P268K17, the trailing year, followed by your school's unique 4-digit GAPS ID. Your school has 4 numbers at the end. It's called a GAPS or G5 ID, and that's specific to your school. For the 17-18 award year, P268K18, and is this where I made the mistake? It is. I knew they didn't correct this. Didn't we see that that was corrected on the, so it's not corrected on the slide. So the first one, 17, should be the 16-17 trailing year, and 18 should be the 17-18 trailing year, and we'll get that corrected and get that up. Okay. When to draw and return. We're still reviewing the basics here, okay? So the regulations are 34 CFR 1668, 161 through 166. You are a trustee for those student funds. Those funds do not belong to you, they belong to the student. You're a trustee. You can't use those funds for other things. They belong to the student. You can draw for immediate need. In other words, if you know that you're going to need funds within 3 days, you can report those disbursements in enough time so that you can draw the funds, but you can't have them in your bank account for more than 3 days. There's another term which you may not be familiar with, which is called excess or idle cash. Let's say you draw the funds down, you post to the student's account, the student walks into your office the next day, says, I won the lottery, I don't want this money anymore, send it back. Anybody have that happen? Or something like that? Or just, I don't want the money, or a rich aunt or uncle decided to give me the money, or maybe my parents decided to give me the money. That money can be returned to your bank account. If you have another student that you can disperse those funds for within 7 calendar days, you don't have to return the funds. You just redisperse those funds to that student. Report the disbursement, use those funds to pay that student. Anybody have any questions about that? Yes?
How does COD know that when you use that fund and not disperse and you disperse?
The question is, how does COD know what you're doing? So that student that walked in and said, I don't want that $20,000 anymore, you're going to do a downward disbursement adjustment to COD, which means they borrowed. So then your disbursements are going to be $20,000 less than your draws. Then you're going to report a new disbursement for that other student that you could disperse within $20,000, within 7 days, and your disbursements will match your draws again. Your draws are not student-specific. Your disbursements are student-specific. But make sure you don't go any more than 7 calendar days with that money. Yes?
We don't have another student we could give that money to. And the other student previously said, because before I press the button, that I always say to them, you sure you want it? So they say yes. And the week after they say, I changed my mind. So we have to return the money to the States. That's going to cost us money. And we charge the student for that, or is that on us?
Ooh, I don't think you can charge a student, but I'm going to ask policy people here that are in the room. So if the question was, if the student comes in, you disperse the aid, he asks them, are you sure you want the money? Yes, I want the money. Are you sure you want the money? Yes, I want the money. Are you really sure you want the money? Yes, I want the money. They return the money. The student comes back a week later and says, I really want that money. Since it costs them money to return, as I'm saying this, I think I know the answer. Since it costs them money to return the funds, can they charge the student for what it costs them to return the funds? And I'm thinking no. Wood is shaking his head no. Anybody else policy-wise can tell me one way or the other? Looking in the back of the room, anybody know? I don't think we know. We'll get back to you on that. Okay. Yes?
Okay, so my business officers told me that they are not able to send a wire transfer to Treasury back to New York, I think. So what can we do?
That is a good question, and I'm going to answer it in this presentation. All right? At the end. I'm going to keep you waiting. Another question? Okay, let's move along. Okay, return of funds. You are going to be returning funds through G5. It would be great if you would do it electronically, but actually I might answer it now just because I like to. We discovered, like a month ago, wasn't it, Mike, I think, that G5 kind of made a change in how they do returns of funds for foreign schools. And they kind of said it was new, but when we looked at the document, it was from 2014. This is 2017. That does not seem new to me, but we didn't know about it. So I've attached it to the presentation at the very end, and it has specific instructions on what you need to do that seem to be different than what G5 has always told us in the past you need to do. And we've had schools just recently have trouble with the SWIFT number and stuff. So if this is recent for your school, it could be because they changed these procedures that were new as of 2014.
That was March.
Yeah.
The whole problem is with, I think, the account number with that specific bank.
Okay.
Obviously, if you have a file, don't ever transfer money to that bank because it won't arrive.
Okay.
It gets lost or to another bank.
Let's look into your situation after today, okay? Anyway, that letter, it's too hard to just, I couldn't find it actually to attach the specific document, so I just made a snip of it, and it's the last 2 slides, so if you download this presentation, those directions will be there. Yeah, I already talked about always returning the equivalent of what you drew in US dollars. Okay. As I mentioned, you are records first. You have no initial authorization. A lot of domestic schools are advance funded, and they are given money up front that they can spend. A lot of schools that are domestic, even though they're given money up front, they still send in records first, and then they draw down money based on what was accepted. So they work effectively just the same way that you do. Some of you are on HCM1, heightened cash monitoring, as Mike mentioned this morning, and there's some other rules that go along with that, but you're still no money up front, records first. And then some schools, very few, I think there's just a couple of foreign schools that are on HCM2, which means records first again, but the department initiates your draw, and you have to submit records to prove that all your disbursements are acceptable. I mean, before, even in addition to what you send to COD. It's kind of a lot of work. Okay, let's talk about the authorization or current funding level, or CFL, versus your available funds. If you look at the very top box right there, and this is actually a snip from the funding information screen. This school, which I believe was a foreign school that I took this snip from, submitted records at the beginning of the year, and it increased their CFL to $36,848. Then they submitted additional records, and their current funding level is $490,647. The previous one was $469,078, so you can see the increase was $21,569, and it occurred 8/21/2017. There's a lot of information there, okay? It can be helpful in reconciling if you have returns or if things don't match the date when things changed. You sent in disbursement records on the 21st of August, it bumped up your CFL. There is an available balance of 0, which means the business office, bursar's office, money person has drawn that money from G5 already. So you have no available balance. Your CFL for the year is $490,000, almost $500,000. That's all the funds that have been made available to you for the year. It's not what's available to draw, but it's what was available, and you may have drawn most of it. In this case, they did, all of it. For you guys, foreign schools, again, this is specific to you, and actually any school that's on HCM2 and HCM1. While your reporting of positive disbursements increases your CFL and the funds that are available to you, when you report downward adjustments, it does not decrease the funds that are available for you. When you do refunds, those refunds go back and are a part of your available balance. The department that I work with, we go in quarterly and we reduce any refunds that schools have made that have built up in there. But the key point in here is, I found another error, Joe. Okay. The key point is, you can't just draw what's available. You need to make sure that you're drawing based on the disbursements, because you don't want to draw refund money if you don't have a disbursement. Remember, what you're looking for what you can disperse within 3 days, so you don't want to be drawing funds that might have built up in your available balance. Any questions on that? Yes. Nice and loud. So her question, which is really a comment, is that the business office doesn't agree, and they think if there's money out there, they should take it. Wrong. Okay? Because refunds can build up. Okay? Let's look at that. And your business office person can email me or call me, and I'll be glad to have a discussion with them. I'm going to show you. So here is an example, and this is actually a snip again from a report that you can run anytime you want to right off the COD website. It's from the school funding information screen, and it's the school funding history report, which is a link from the bottom page. This shows backwards your CFL adjustments for a foreign school. That means you submitted disbursements. So you'd submitted disbursements March 27th of $31,783. You drew $31,783. You refunded $20,653. That becomes part of your available funds. But should you draw that money? No, you should only draw based on what you're going to disperse. So note that they dispersed on 5/17. They had a disbursement of $10,587. They could draw that because they had somebody that they could disperse to. A couple days later, they go ahead and draw the $4,356. That leaves still some available funds. They go ahead and disperse $21,000. They go ahead and disperse $97,780, and then they draw the total amount of money that they need for all the students, which is $124,493. And then they go back, because there's no refunds, to submitting disbursements, drawing the money, submitting disbursements, drawing the money. But just keep in mind, when you refund, you can't just willy-nilly go out and draw that money. You have to have disbursements to support it. And here it is with the math. So they refunded that $20,653. They then drew $10,587 based on disbursements. They had an available balance of $10,066, but they didn't have anybody to disperse all of that money to. They had somebody they could give $4,356, so they did, which left an available balance of $5,710. 2 more sets of disbursements brings you to $124,493. Then they can draw it because they have disbursements to match the funds they drew. Isn't that fun? Show that to your business office. Okay. Other requirements before we get into a little bit more practical stuff. Record retention. You have to keep the records on your campus that prove that the student was eligible to receive aid. You also have to keep records of when you dispersed funds and what kind of funds they were and for what payment period you paid them. All right? And then any other records that will demonstrate your administrative capability, which would be reconciliation on a monthly basis like we talked about earlier. Yes, ma'am.
Bob, can I just have a mic used because of the recording? I think it's going to be more helpful to people to actually hear the question.
I forgot we were recording.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no worries. So Wood has a mic, I have one, Andy has one. So just put your hand up if you have a question and we'll get a mic to you.
Okay, could we just go back to that previous? So I'm thinking that the timeline where you suddenly have the 5-7 in your funding, but you wait 2 months, shouldn't that have been returned altogether in G5? Can you wait that long?
So they returned on 5/11 $20,653 because students either dropped out or didn't want the money, so they returned it in May. Okay? They didn't have anybody that they could disperse again for 6 days later. On 5/17, they submitted disbursements, and so they drew the money down.
Yeah, right.
Got it? Okay. Another question? I think I saw somebody over here. Okay. Okay, now we get into internal versus external reconciliation. Internal is within the school. Sorry, I'm making the sound crazy. I won't wave my arms. Sorry about that. So it's between your business office, comptroller, money person, and the financial aid person. You want to make sure that everything you do on your campus matches. What they posted to the student accounts is also what you reported to COD. External reconciliation is between the school and the Department of Education. So let's look at those all a little bit more detail. Internal reconciliation, you got your financial aid office, your business office, and teamwork, making it fit together so that it's one data set. It matches. It's the same. And don't forget, you want to take into account what the student wants. When I worked at a school, I was actually a pretty small school. I was 50 feet from our business office, and we still had problems communicating. Somebody would walk into her office and say, I don't want this money anymore. She would send the money back, but nobody would tell me that I needed to do the downward adjustment. And I have to tell you, the same thing happened. People would come in and tell me they didn't want the money, and I would do a downward adjustment, and I would forget to tell her to send the money back, and we were like 50 feet away from each other. So that happens. So you've got to have a regular time where you're communicating and working together to make sure that your data matches. Your cash needs to agree, so what is drawn needs to agree with what's posted. The disbursements that she or he posts to the student account, the date and the amount need to match what you reported. If the bursar or business office posted to a student account on September 1st that they dispersed aid, and you report to COD the disbursement was September 15th, is that okay? No. Disbursement has to be the same day as when it was posted to the business office records. And also your net draws, which would be draws minus refunds, equal the net disbursements, which are disbursements minus adjustments by program and award year. So what are some tips for your business office? Anybody from the business office here? Yes? Oh, awesome. All right, a few of you. Great. Okay. So you really want to be a friend with that financial aid officer, and you want to make sure that you guys are communicating on a regular basis and that you also are in sync with what the student wants. You want to get read-only access to COD. You can do that. Business office can get read-only access to COD. That is not going individually and signing up, but your destination point administrator has to set up access for you. That's different than G5. Highly recommend that. And then the most common mistake that business offices make is they don't return funds to the correct award year. And perhaps in your case, it would be award year, not program, but that can happen. That can happen. You can make an adjustment, and I'm going to show you some examples of adjustments here, but it should only be to correct a problem, not to reconcile. So when we're looking at schools, and when I'm looking at what a school has done, if I see they made an adjustment between 17-18 funds and 16-17 funds in September, and the error happened in May, that's an adjustment to reconcile. If I had a business office that returned funds to the wrong year and 2 days or a week later, they move it to the other year, that's an adjustment to correct an error, and I'm not gonna beat them over the head about that. But if I see some at the end of the year, that's for reconciliation, and we will beat you about the ears or more. It's not okay. Financial aid tips for internal reconciliation. You wanna make sure you're going to lunch on a regular basis with your business office. Make sure you guys are getting along and you're communicating. You want to make sure you're running reports between your business office and your financial aid office. I think a lot of you kind of have your own systems that you use. A lot of domestic schools will use software that automatically communicates between the business office and the financial aid office, so they think they're always in sync. That's not the case. Sometimes that cannot match. So you've got to run regular reports to make sure that you do match and that your data is exactly the same. And as I mentioned earlier, you want to get read-only access to G5. External reconciliation. So that's when you want to make sure after you've reconciled internally. Yes, sir? We have a question? Yes. Oh, wait, you have to not say anything yet.
Hold on till
Sorry.
we get you a mic.
So is it hot in here, or is it just because I have this hot jacket on? Can we get a little bit more air if somebody could find somebody to do that? Would, can you see if you can find Joe or send him an email or something? Yes.
One of the questions I have is when you're dealing in foreign currency, so we match the records to the financial aid and we send it to the business office, and then by the time the bank does the actual banking and transfer, there's a few dollars that is different to our records, and we're not quite sure what to do when that happens.
That's why you need to, you're going to draw funds in domestic US dollars. You're going to return funds in domestic US dollars. Let's say when you drew $2,000, when you converted it, the net amount to apply to the student's account was, I'm going to say $19.80. You thought you were going to get $2,000. They now owe you $20 because of the conversion, or the other way around. Yep. When you have a balance because the amount that was returned wasn't correctly converted to US dollars?
There's been a change in the exchange rate overnight, and it's just a few dollars, but it sits in our balances and we don't quite know what to do with it.
If you're off for a few dollars, and I mean like dollar or dollars, but not dollars, you can sometimes close out if you still have a balance of dollar or dollars, but not dollars. Okay? Like less than $10. Not a lot of dollars, little dollars. Pennies. No pennies. No pennies in direct loans. External reconciliation, also you're going to want to make sure your cash drawdowns match with what's reflected in G5. So your internal records are going to be matching with what's in G5, okay? Moving along. So external reconciliation players, the financial aid office and the business office are singing the same song. You've reconciled internally. Then you start reconciling with COD. And you use G5 as a resource. You don't reconcile to what's in G5. G5 sends financial data to COD, and all of our reports are generated out of COD. So you're going to be using COD reports to reconcile. But G5 is a resource. There's some tips. You're going to look at your bank statement. That's a really good place to identify if you've returned or drawn funds incorrectly. You're going to use this G5 and COD reports, which we'll look at in just a moment here. You're going to want to make sure that you're keeping your school record, your disbursement records in sync with COD by fixing your rejects. And here's where those domestic schools that think their software is always going to keep them in sync, well, that would be the case if nothing ever rejected in COD. But if you send $50,000 of disbursements to COD and that same file sends $50,000 to the business office to post and only $45,000 accepted in COD, you're off by $5,000, right? So you've got to fix your rejects. So make sure you're fixing your rejected records. In your case, there won't be any money to draw. And the business office might come down the hall to you and say, where's that other $25,000 I thought I was going to have? We'll look at some COD web screens, and then you also want to pay attention to IFAP announcements and COD updates. Okay, let's look at some tools. G5 has some online training, which you can access via their menu. We are recording this. We're recording this. Don't tell anybody. I really don't like the G5 training. It pretty much is awful. So if you have any questions, call the G5 help desk. Send Wood an email. He'll be happy to answer any questions about that. I thought I'd get him. Notice in their frequently asked questions that they have a specific section on international banking with a link to the international banking form. There are some really good frequently asked questions in G5. G5 also has a report, one report that you can use. It's called the External Award Activity Report. You log in, you go to the reports menu, and then you can search either by your DUNS number or by a specific award. In this case, I searched by a DUNS number, and it pulls up all of the awards associated with that DUNS number. The school entered the recipient reference number. That's not something that's part of the report, but there's a column there where the school can add that information so they know what year they're working with. And you'll note here in this case, we were talking about adjustments. See at the two from the bottom, in the 16-17 award year, looks like they needed to make an adjustment between 15-16, 16-17. Somebody probably drew money in the wrong year and they needed to move it to the other year. I think they also did the same thing between 13-14 and 12-13. That can happen. If you want to see more detail about the particular award, you click on the award itself, and it gets you to that detail information. Looking at the bottom again, see we've got that $31,783 change, drew the money, refunded $20,653, and then we've got those drawdowns that they made again, and then again our CFL increases. The screen looks strangely familiar to the one I showed you in COD, right? You can compare these two. It's great. They should match up. There are two, you're going to get codes with your records that you submit to COD. You're going to get, you'll get the record accepted, and then you're happy and everything's wonderful. You could get a warning that's there to alert you that there's a problem with that record. But it's going to go ahead and go into COD, and it's going to increase your CFL, and the disbursement will accept. But it's a warning saying, did you really mean to do this? Okay? But a reject does not get in the door on COD, doesn't build, doesn't increase your CFL. You've got to fix those rejects, or that student will never get the funds that they want. So you want to set aside a time to resolve those rejects. Now, if you've got 15 students, you probably don't have to do it daily or weekly. Just, when you get the reject, go ahead and get it fixed. But if you're one of the large medical schools that is submitting records to us several times a week, you better not wait to reconcile those rejects or fix them weekly or monthly. You better be fixing those every day, or you're going to be in trouble. Most of the calls that come into COD customer service are for assistance in resolving edit code rejects. And don't forget, you can chat. You can email, you can chat, you can call. Another place where you can go to help you with your edit code rejects is on IFAP. That's ifap.ed.gov. And click on publications. And while we're looking at this, can I actually do this? Nope, I can't. I'm going to do something. Well, you see the little highlighted yellow? That's a foreign school section. You all know there's a foreign school section on IFAP. Hopefully, nodding heads. Yes, everybody loves that. There we go. Okay, for our edit code rejects, go to IFAP, click on publications, and then there's processing publications. See the COD technical reference there? There's a specific volume, volume 2, that has a bunch of great information in it, and one of the sections is all about edits. If you click on that, you'll see that all the edits are listed by number, whether it's a reject or a warning. If it's a reject, it'll say R, a warning, it'll say W. Tells you if it rejected at the award level or the disbursement level, and then how to fix it. And Wood told me these are the two most common ones that he gets questions on from foreign schools, is if there's a citizenship problem or if there's no promissory note on file. It tells you right away what the problem is and then how to fix it. Okay, we have a lot of reports, and I think from when you raised your hands earlier, most of you cannot receive anything from the Student Aid Internet Gateway, right? How do you get your ISERs? You don't get your ISERs. You look at them online, or the student brings them in to you in paper? Online? On FAFSA or FAA Access? Yeah, boy. Okay, so you can kind of tune out. I'm going to say this really quickly. The school account statement goes through your SAIG mailbox. The SAS disbursement detail on demand goes through your SAIG mailbox. And the actual disbursement list does not. It is on the COD website, and I showed that to you really quickly this morning in our hands-on session, and we'll spend a little bit more time looking at it now. You are supposed to reconcile to the SAS monthly, but you don't get it. So you can't, right? It is the department's official bank statement for the direct loan program, which is why you're supposed to be reconciling to it. I'm going to show you what screen you can use to help you with that. So I'm going to skip through this slide that I really don't like, but I was told to use it again this year. There we go. We're going to skip it. Okay. And we're going to go through this because you can't get these either. And the direct loan actual disbursement list. This is a weekly report that's generated based on disbursements you submitted the previous, I think it's Saturday to Friday, okay? And it's based on when it posted in COD, not based on the disbursement date. So that means it includes booked, unbooked, which would be future dated disbursements. So if any of you send in disbursement records prior to the disbursement date, they're going to show up on this report as unbooked, okay? And you're going to retrieve it from the portal. You're going to log into go to the Services tab, click on the hyperlink there, go to the COD portal, click on Team Content, School Report Search, just like we showed you this morning. We're going to collapse that because Barb doesn't like it that way. And go to School Report Search. Again, these are the reports that are available to you. We showed you that this morning. And then do a report search. The only field that's required is the OPE ID. And just a reminder, as I mentioned this morning, we just converted to this new format. So there's only reports for the last month that are there. As things go along, 6 months from now, there will be 6 months worth of reports. And I think that's the longest we keep reports out there, 6 months at a time. This is what the actual disbursement list will look like in CSV, and it's pretty tiny, so hopefully we did not grab your screens and you can look closely. Can you see on front, or you can't see there? Now, can you see? I'm so sorry. Okay. There's a lot of data here. You've got your direct loan code, your school ID, which is your COD ID, got your student-specific information, award ID, when the disbursement posted to COD, the book date, column I, the disbursement date, column J. Why would the book date and the disbursement date be different? I'm going to tell you. Look at the column K, you've got your disbursement number, but if you look at the next column, you'll have the sequence number. Anything above 1 means you changed something, right? Disbursement 1, sequence 1 means that's the first sequence or the first event for that disbursement. If you have disbursement 1, sequence 2, you made a change. It could be a financial change, it could be a date change. If you have disbursement 1, sequence 66 or higher, you made the change directly on the COD website. If it's a sequence 2, you sent it through your software. And then we're going to scroll over a little bit more here so you can see. Actually, I'm going to go back. So you've got your gross amount. Somebody had asked me earlier about looking at your gross amount and then the origination fee amount and then your disbursement amount. You can see it right here on your on this report. And then if we keep scrolling over, you can also see if you made an adjustment. Okay, so there's a lot of records here where they had a sequence of events, or third, where they actually did a downward adjustment, which is reflected right here on this disbursement report. You've got your SIP code, you've got your loan period begin and end date, payment period, and then look at the very, very bottom. We've got the sum for this week, for this report, of your disbursements and the sum of your adjustments. So then you have the net amount that your business office should be drawing down. Right? Disbursements minus adjustments equals your net disbursements, which should match your net draws. This report can really be useful for you on a weekly basis. If you reimburse yourselves, basically you submit your disbursements and your business office doesn't draw for a couple of days, use this report and you'll know exactly what to draw based on any adjustments that you might have made. We also talked about how you can get your ad hoc reports available. This is an example of a foreign school actually that requested a 16-17 direct loan disbursement list. And we're going to look at that. And this is actually my disbursement list, and I'm so glad that I made it so you guys can see because you would never be able to see this. And the bottom part, which is bigger, is just the last few columns that is blown up. It's really the same as your disbursement list, except that this can be run for a year at a time or for any date range that you want. It looks a little bit different as far as the adjustments go. You'll see here, excuse me, that I have a disbursement number 1, sequence 66 in that first row. That means the school went online and made a downward adjustment. You'll have they made an adjustment. It wasn't a downward adjustment. They changed the date because there's no credit amount in there. If you look at the very last row, you'll have disbursement 1, sequence 68, which means they made it a 66, a 67. They made 3 changes to this record. And effectively, the last change they made was on 12/19/2016, and they backed out $990, which ultimately reduced the loan to 0. The gross amount dispersed is 0, the fee amount is 0, the dispersed amount is 0. This is a great reconciliation tool for you, either on a monthly basis or when you're ready to reconcile at the end of the year, because it should show everything that you did for that student record. It's not going to show all the detail, right? We don't have 66, 67, and 68. We have the final answer, not anything in between that. Okay. The school summary information. Here's some screenshots that you can use on COD. We're going to look at some of the specific funding screens that you can see right on COD. You can look at this screen right after you log in, and it's a really good quick check to make sure if you're reconciled. This school cash greater than net accepted and posted disbursements is at a negative, and we're going to talk about what that means in just a second. Some of the other screens we're going to look at is the funding info, where I've drawn a lot of my reports that I've showed you today. We're going to look at school summary financial information, balance confirmation, reopen extended processing. Here's the funding information screen. Again, that you'll see that's the same kind of snip that I pulled earlier. We talked about the different CFL amounts. This school has an available balance of $20,497. That's because their cash greater than net accepted and posted disbursements is a negative. They've drawn down less cash than they have submitted in disbursements. See the bottom two? Their net drawdowns is 149. Their net accepted disbursements is 169. If their disbursements are correct, they need to draw down that 20 grand, right? Okay. Okay, and then at the very bottom of that page, the school funding history report is that same report that I've shown you a couple of times. And remember how I said that it matches exactly? There's the G5 report on the other side. These are great reports to use, either from the COD side or from the G5 side. This is the screen that's going to help you in place of your SAS, okay? This is the school summary financial screen. It mimics the first page or the first section of the school account statement. The school account statement is a snapshot issued once a month. This page is updated daily. So it's going to reflect your total draws, your adjustments, your disbursements, your disbursement adjustments, and your ending cash balance. So you can use this screen to help you reconcile since you can't get the SAS. So the direct loan actual disbursement list, the ad hoc direct loan actual disbursement list, and the school funding information screen, and then your funding info data. And we talked about the action queue, but I really am excited about this because you can select multiple records if you choose at a time, up to 100. And we will work on, somebody over here talked about, I'm not recognizing the person that came up to me, about not having to redo the search again. Every time she has to like 200, 300, 400 students to submit, you can only select 100, then you got to put your search criteria in all over again. That's kind of a pain in the neck, and I can understand that. So we'll work on seeing if we can get that fixed for you. Okay, remember how I said reconciliation, you just need to know where the money is on a monthly basis? When it comes to program year closeout, you must be at a zero balance. You can't have any money that you either owe or that you need to draw. So it's the process where you tell us you've completed for the entire year. It shouldn't be any kind of big deal. If you are reconciling monthly like you're required to do, it's just one more reconciliation to close out the end of the year. And it should result in a zero ending cash balance. So your net draws equal your net accepted and posted disbursements. It also should happen shortly after you're done processing. You're required to close out the award year by July 31st of the year following the year. So for 17-18, that would be July 31st, 2019. But you really should be able to close out within a month or two after you're done processing for 17-18. You shouldn't have to wait until July of 2019. So you can go in to COD, and I'll show you in just a few minutes where you would go to officially close out. So new for closeout, we have revised some of our correspondence, and I think there's probably a lot of correspondence. And we also changed the balance confirmation process, which for direct loans has been available since the 2011-12 award year. You don't have to receive a zero balance letter now in order to close out, but you need to make sure that your SAS, or that screen I showed you, reflects a zero ending cash balance. It's important that you do officially do your balance confirmation and close out because it helps tighten your processing. You telling us you're not going to submit records anymore, and we're not going to send reports to you anymore. You told us you're done, we're going to stop the processing. If you close out before the processing ends for that award year, you can easily reopen the award year. You just go to the request extended processing, ask to open the award year back up, and we open it up automatically for you. If you asked to open the award year up after the processing deadline, then it takes a little bit longer for somebody to go in and confirm that for you. There's some closeout guidance that was published July 14th, and then you'll see that the closeout deadline for 15-16 was July 31st, 2017. For 16-17, it will be July 31st, 2018. And as I said, regulations supersede, so you cannot wait until June to start working on closing out. If you finished processing like the previous June, you need to make sure that you're closing out and being done on time and making sure you're totally reconciled. You can't wait a whole nother year if you aren't processing. And check out IFAP closely for any other announcements related to funding and reconciliation deadlines. I mentioned if you need to request to reopen, you go to the school menu and you'll see that the request to reopen extended is about fifth from the bottom. You can go ahead and request and tell us why you need to open the year back up, and then we'll go ahead and open it up so that you can submit more records. And it's required to submit either upward or downward adjustments for direct loans. Additional resources for you, the handbook volume 4, as I mentioned earlier. I gave you the contact information for both the G5 and the COD help desk. We talked about IFAP, and I talked about the foreign schools section specifically, and I just wanted to show you guys some of the tools that are available on IFAP in the foreign schools area. And then I have just a list of all the different reports that are available and where you can get them. So you'll want to pay special note to the reports that you can get directly on the COD website and how often they're generated for you. And there's quite a number of them. And then there's some non-program specific, which would be for you guys the COD school monitoring. And then we talked about the school funding history that you can generate anytime you want off of the school funding page. Other presentations you might want to check out. More resources. We just published a reconciliation announcement, so that last one should be replaced with one that I think was published the week of Thanksgiving, which would be reconciliation in general. So you want to check out IFAP on that. And here's that letter that I was talking about that G5 has with specific instructions for foreign schools. And they said it was just recent, but note when it was published, December 17th, 2014, which is not recent in my book. And they didn't tell me. Bah, humbug. Okay, my contact information, of course, you can always email the Direct Loan School Support Team, or you can call Wood night or day. He will always answer the phone. Any questions? Anybody want to get some cool air? Oh my goodness, it's roasting to death in here. Yes, question?
It's related to the exchange rate.
Yes.
When we receive the
Hang on a second, I'm sorry. Wait a second.
Who's talking?
Okay, just a second. Yes.
Hi. So when we draw down the fund from G5 and post it to the student accounts, but then we credit the student maybe after 7 or 10 days, like give the refund for the remaining balance to the student. But the exchange rate has changed within those days. So either the student receives less or more.
Actually,
So
either the
that's-
school is going to get less or the school is going to get more. Sometimes it's going to be in your favor and sometimes it's not. But you need to return what was calculated that the student did not earn based on US dollars,
Okay.
and then convert it to your exchange rate.
Okay.
And in some cases, that might mean that you keep an extra dollar or two, and in some cases, that might mean you lose an extra dollar or two.
Awesome. That's actually good.
Yes?
Hi, I just have a G5 question. When you had the columns come up, and so from COD it goes into the G5, and then you do the drawdowns. When it goes into the G5, is there a way, because it goes in as a total, that you can separate that into students? So for that like 1.9 that you have, could you run something that said what students make up that total?
Not from G5.
Okay.
G5 is, and I'll repeat the question anyway. The question, basically, I'm going to translate the question. G5 is not student specific. So you can never run a report from G5 that will tell you who you paid. That student specific information is in COD. So sorry. But it's a good point, good question. Any other questions? So do we want to take a break, and those people that want to come back and do some hands-on can, and Wood and I will stay here for half an hour or so, 40 minutes, and those of you that want to go have some fun or catch some sun or have an adult beverage could do that. Anyway, we're going to break.
I just want to make a couple of announcements. Is this giving you a lot of feedback? So first of all, thanks to all our presenters today. I think it was marvelous that we had this this day back again, and our Chief Operating Officer has committed to doing it again. If you look at the back of... Manny, can you turn this one on, please? Is it on? Okay, thank you. So on the back of your programs, we've already announced that the conference is going to be in Atlanta next year. And of course, the dates that are on the back are for Tuesday through Friday. So once it's determined that we'll offer a foreign school session on Monday, once that has definitively been made, we will let everyone know. It's very unusual that we actually know now where the conference is going to be next year. We've not had that experience before, and someone actually pointed it out to me, so that was good to know. Also, Tina wanted me to let you know that she is going to be available in the Resource Center, and I'm going to look at her email to me. So she will schedule appointments to demo the CAT or the IHECF, and you can make them Tuesday and Wednesday from 3 to 5 p.m. or Thursday from 2 until 7 p.m. So if you were a little overwhelmed by all the information that Tina gave you and you want to go and learn some more from her, please take advantage of that and make an appointment. And now I just need Zoe. Can you come up? So Zoe is from the American University of Rome, and she's been coming to these conferences for quite a number of years. And Zoe has planned the happy hour that schools organize every year for you. So I'm just going to let her tell you when and where, and we hope to see as many of you as possible.
Okay, so it should be tomorrow evening, right after our last session, which I think ends at 5:45. And if you go, it's called the Blue Zoo, and it's out towards the fountains that are at the entrance. So if you go through the lobby and then down the escalators, it's right on the left. And it's really informal. It's just something you can sort of come and go as you please, but it's really great, and hopefully all of our federal colleagues will be there as well. So please come. It'll be from about 6 to 8 tomorrow.
Thank you, Zoe. So anyone who wants to stay, you're welcome. If not, we will see you for our first session tomorrow afternoon, I think at 1:15. And we're in a different room. We're in the Americas seminar tomorrow. So enjoy your evening, and we will see you tomorrow afternoon. Thanks, everyone.